I was going to record myself for my little cold open gag, but then I realized I look and feel like garbage.
The garbage will do!
No, it won't. I'm not really looking to scar any children, so we're gonna settle for my voice, okay? Do you need summer reading? Are you laying out by the pool with the blaring sun in your eyes and in need of something to block you from a fresh sunburn? Well, you're in luck, because the current Star Wars canon has books aplenty that will keep you busy throughout the summer and beyond. I have to say, weeding out the good and the bad with the Star Wars books used to be trickier, but the new canon does a pretty decent job infusing the Star Wars library with solid reads. It all just depends on what you're looking for. I haven't read everything because I don't have enough time in the day, but I've read enough to have a pretty full opinion on what is definitely a must-read. This isn't going to be in any particular order or anything. The first book isn't any more readable than the last, and likewise. I'm just out here telling you guys what to read. Don't come for me acting like Boo Boo the Fool just because your favorite isn't on here. These aren't even necessarily my favorites, but depending on what you're looking for, are must-reads. However, I am intrigued, of course, by your favorite Star Wars canon novels and would love to know what makes them so special to you. Without further ado, let's talk books. In the summer, which sounds illegal. Number 1, Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. Who I recommend this book for? Original trilogy purists and sequel trilogy lovers alike, because there's definitely some fair treatment of both here. Leia lovers, and anyone who appreciates a more character-driven versus plot-driven novel. In summary, this book follows Leia Organa around the time of her 16th birthday as she prepares to take on the mantle of Princess of Alderaan, hence the title. In order to become princess, Leia must endure various tests of mind, body, and political spirit. She takes various classes with others her age, which they are all basically galactic interns, to gain experience. In reaching this rite of passage, she tries to prove herself to her parents and to herself that she is capable of being a strong and wise leader of Alderaan. Along the way, she meets lifelong friends, enemies, and even falls in love. Above all else, she learns of something that will change her life forever, the rebellion, and namely, who is involved in it. Why do I love this book so much? I plan on doing a more in-depth analysis of Leia and Queen Shadow alike, and compare the two of them for reasons that will be disclosed later. But in short, Leia is the coming-of-age story we never got to see in Star Wars. At 16, she's not quite the full-blown leader we meet in A New Hope, but the potential is there. She's inexperienced and even a bit immature in comparison to who we meet in the later stages of the saga. However, we see her go through the motions of becoming that person we all know and love. She's naive and brash, making mistakes left and right, but her heart and courage never waver. My favorite thing above all else in this book is how much it sounds like it's coming from Carrie Fisher's mouth. Despite being younger, Leia is still ballsy and takes no shit. She's just very much a young girl and we get to hear her internalized thoughts, but she's still quick-witted and always ready for a fight, even if the fight isn't ready for her. Seeing Leia explore the rebellion that she would eventually help lead is such a revolutionary moment, and you see her ideals form and change as well as the values she has in the movies develop. You see why she's so closed off to Han Solo as a reflection of her past, as well as her relationship with her parents. And of course, there's little nods to her gifted nature with the Force and how they go unnoticed by her. I genuinely like pretty much everything about this book, as it really ties Leia's origin story to the original trilogy as well as introduces concepts brought into the sequel trilogy. If you're looking for something with a more complicated plot, I'm not sure this book is for you, but the character moments and explanations really make it all worthwhile. And by the way, there's a moment in this book that involves Leia's true parentage, and it will get your heart racing. Number 2, Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. Who I recommend this book for? Clone Wars enthusiasts, Rebels enthusiasts, Ahsoka fans, people who like Ashley Eckstein's voice cause she does the audiobook. In summary, Ahsoka, former Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, goes into hiding with the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire, as all light-sided Force wielders must do. Unbeknownst to her former master's dark turn, Ahsoka mourns his and all of her friends' loss, as well as tries to figure out her own place in the Force after she left the Jedi Council in Season 5 of the Clone Wars. In her journey of self-discovery, she realizes she cannot help but help people, and decides she cannot lie down as the Empire takes advantage of everyone. Why do I love it? Well, I love Ahsoka. But first of all, this book is actually much better if you listen to the audiobook. It's a great book, but hearing Ashley Eckstein narrate it makes it sound like one of the big episodes of the Clone Wars. If you're a big fan of the animated shows like I am, I highly recommend this book. It takes place 1 year after Revenge of the Sith and about 14 years before Rebels. It connects the pieces between the two extremely well, with the explaining exactly where Ahsoka was when Order 66 struck, to how she became the rebel informant Fulcrum, to how she obtains her white lightsabers. This book just fills in so many blanks that previously existed. It even explains why, in the present canon, lightsabers are the colors that they are. Even if you aren't looking for this, from the perspective of loving the animated shows, this book does offer the unique opinion of a Jedi, or former Padawan, who is alive and escaping the Jedi genocide. It's very Last of the Jedi-esque in some ways, except keeping the focus on Ahsoka. Similar to the Leia novel, Ahsoka is a very personal experience along the ride. She undergoes a pretty dramatic change from the start to end, maturing immensely as this traumatic chapter in her life forms into a promising future. There are so many callbacks and moments that make any Star Wars fan's jaw drop at references, some of which Ahsoka is not even in the know of. You also get intimately close with the planet of Raieta, which is the planet Ahsoka tries to protect from the Empire, and sees how this influences Ahsoka into no longer being able to stand by and watch the Empire stomp all over the land. Number 3, Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. Who I recommend this book for? EU fanboys and girls, Heir to the Empire people, Star Wars Rebels fans, and people who enjoy well-crafted villains and smart writing. In summary, whereas Heir to the Empire, which gave an account of Thrawn in his prime, this novel gives the origin of the titular characters climbing through the ranks of the Galactic Empire. After being discovered and confused as a savage by the Imperial Navy, Thrawn quickly shows his merit and worth to the military. He proves himself as an indispensable powerhouse, making cold and cunning premonitions left and right that always proved to be true. He and his aide, Eli, experience victories and losses alike, all while struggling with the difficulty of not fitting into the status quo of the Imperial Navy. Meanwhile, Arinda Price, a desperate politician, will do anything to get to the top of the food chain. These two clash and see whether they will be worthy allies or brutal enemies. Why I love it? Without Thrawn, the current Star Wars canon was severely lacking a quiet but calculated villain that was so damn respectable that it was impossible to hate him. At every turn Thrawn makes, even with the knowledge of the Empire is bad and he is willingly participating in it, as well as what he does in Rebels, all I can do is have major respect for his intellect. He is cold but never callous. He's never boastful or cocky, just always right. And you love to see it. Timothy Zahn writes Thrawn so well and handles the politics of the Empire particularly interesting. I will say that I didn't find Arinda Price's storyline as interesting, but it does all become relevant and important in the end. So push through it. Thrawn, though, goes through quite an ordeal to become such a trusty member of the Empire. You really get a glimpse into how classist and racist the Empire unsurprisingly is. Nobody is anything but humanoid, which is something this book made me realize. I don't know why that never occurred to me as being strange, but it's true. It's also pointed out that few of the higher-ups would ever be from the Outer Rim, showing the closer planets to have a higher priority in treatment. Eli is such a passive character that is blindly following the Empire because he's always being told that's right. You kind of spend the entire time hoping he sees the light, but the fact that neither of these characters do makes it more real and fleshes out the situation. Not everyone deserves a redemption arc. At Kylo Ren. Number 4, Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. Who I recommend this to? Romantics, someone who likes the whole saga, new character-centric plots, split point of views, and spanning over multiple years. People who like that kind of stuff. In summary, bonding over their love for flying, Thane and Sienna become best friends who go to pursue their dreams by each other's sides and join the Imperial Academy with the hopes of preserving the good of the galaxy by being TIE pilots. Over time, though, both are put into a difficult position when they begin to form different opinions on the Empire. When ending up on opposite sides of the war, these once best friends grapple with their feelings for each other as well as their places in the galaxy, and namely, if it has room for the two of them. Why do I love this? I love me a good action-packed romance when I see it. I love that these characters in this story are mostly all original characters of Claudia Gray's creation. As much as I revel in books such as Leia or Ahsoka, where they tell the tales of characters we know and love, it's always refreshing to have new dynamics and characters introduced to canon. The ever-changing relationship between Thane and Sienna is so palpable, as well as the chemistry these two share. It's clear that above all else, their love for each other is obvious. However, they start to struggle with the idea of drifting apart over core values. This book really shows both sides of the coin and how someone from the perspective of the Empire could be so disillusioned into seeing the Rebel Alliance as a bunch of harmful terrorists due to propaganda, as well as a limited perspective. On the flip side, the shift from Empire to indifference to Rebel is also perfectly displayed. You want these two to work it out so badly, but you understand the mountain that stands between them. This novel is filled with information on all three trilogies actually, starting with the fall of the Republic and ending with the Battle of Jakku. It actually gives you varying perspectives on many events over the course of the saga, namely things such as the destruction of Alderaan, the Battle of Endor, and Jakku. It's exciting when you catch glimpses of events and characters that we know and love from the eyes of either Thane or Sienna, and you don't really see them coming. It really weaves together the entire saga in this love story while also remaining very intimate. You truly grow attached to Sienna and Thane, and it makes you wish that they were in more media. Number 5, From a Certain Point of View, by various authors. Who do I recommend this to? Pretty much everyone, unless you hate short stories or A New Hope. In summary, okay, so remember that little movie that came out in 1997 called Star Wars? Now called A New Hope? Well, imagine that movie except told from a totally different perspective. A bunch of different perspectives, actually. Imagine each scene depicted from someone not center stage. Imagine the triumphant Battle of Yavin as more than just a centralized victory for Luke Skywalker and company. Picture every single working cog in the murder machine that is the Empire. Even the ghosts have their stories. No one is excluded from the fun. Why do I love this? Well, isn't it obvious? This book essentially transforms the original Star Wars movie and makes you pay such integral attention to everything that happens. If you enjoy Star Wars at all, it's definitely worth a read. Getting up and close and personal with overlooked background characters is something I never knew I wanted until this book. Did you want to hear about R5-D4, the unsung hero of our time? Or how about the cute but mischievous little Jawa named Jot and his sacrifice? Or maybe Qui-Gon beyond the grave? How about why Yoda didn't want to train Luke? There's all of that and much, much more. Each story is told from a different perspective as well, with a different genre and writing style. Some are funny, some are sad, some are something in the middle, there's satire, everything is here. Which makes sense as they've all compiled from different authors. Heavy hitters like Claudia Gray, E.K. Johnston, Chuck Wendig, Paul Dini, and much more get their time in the sun, as well as plenty of other authors that haven't written for Star Wars yet. All of it fits together in its interesting little compilation. It's a bunch of little stories that tells one big one that changes how you'll view the entire saga. Well, that about does it for my 5 must-reads. There's plenty more, and who's to say I won't make another video similar to this, even with the non-canon books. There are plenty more excellent and worthy books in the Star Wars universe currently, but I wanted to cover my bases genre-wise. I promise next week we'll be back to seeing my funny face again, so don't fret your pretty little heads too much about that. May the Force be with you, and you have a great day. I promise I'm doing the peace out thing off camera.
And aliens from 1,000 worlds.
Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile.
Star Wars. 1 billion years in the making.
The Force will be with you, always.